From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. President Tinubu lifts state of emergency in Rivers State, directs suspended governor and lawmakers to resume Thursday. Federal Inland Revenue Service counts losses as it mourns death of 4 senior staff who died in Tuesday Lagos Island inferno. Hundreds of protesters march against President Trump as he makes historic second visit to the United Kingdom.
In business, International Monetary Fund urges private sector to expand Nigeria's financial access.
And in sports, history has been made at the ongoing athletics championships as Nigeria's Ezekiel Nathaniel runs fastest time to qualify for men's 400-meter hurdles final.
Tonight begins now. Welcome. We begin tonight in Rivers State, where President Bola Tinubu has announced the suspension of the 6-month-old emergency rule. The president directed Rivers suspended governor Siminalayi Fubara to return to office on Thursday. Tinubu also asked Ngozi Odu, the deputy governor, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly to resume official duties. Meanwhile, a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress APC, Tonye Cole, has said that the suspended governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, will have absolutely no powers when he eventually returns to office. While Cole described the situation as problematic for such an important state, he highlighted the recurring political godfatherism conflict in Nigeria, which he says often harm democracy and the people. He also urged Fubara to negotiate with the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike for a working arrangement that allows sole decision-making by the governor. Now, following the lifting of the 6-month emergency rule imposed on Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu, residents of the state have expressed mixed reactions about the restoration of democratic structures. While some expressed excitement about the expected resumption of Governor Fubara, others remain skeptical about what may lie ahead for both the governor and the lawmakers. Let's expand this conversation on Rivers State. We have a stakeholder, Professor Yala Peterside. We actually had a conversation with him yesterday on this subject matter. He is joined by constitutional lawyer and political analyst, Deborah Soshoma. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. I'll start with you, Professor Peterside, and just from our conversation from yesterday, it has happened. Did you think something could have stopped it today? Are you somewhat happy with the restoration of democratic rule?
Yes, and I think every Nigerian should be, Felicity, good evening. I think every Nigerian should be, every lover of democracy should be happy with the return of normalcy. My happiness, though, is tainted by the process itself. And the president's speech, which I welcome, did not contain any specifics of what the return of the democratic governor, under what circumstances he was returning, and what assurances the Rivers people would have that he would have a free hand to run the state according to his mandate. So we are waiting for the details of the negotiations and the agreements that led to this return. I understand that a lot of discussions have happened behind the scenes. I understand that the governor and the president and the FCT minister were in London a couple of weeks ago, and I think both of them just came back from London yesterday. And so I understand there have been discussions. The question is, what are the terms of this? Is this a capitulation? Is this a surrender? Is this a rearrangement? What is it, and what is the benefit?
I guess we'll be seeing what it is in the coming days. But Mr. Shoma, talk to us about accountability. Yesterday when we were talking, Professor Peterside was a bit concerned about, we've not heard anything in the past 6 months, how the state of emergency went and all of that. So What does the law say in terms of stewardship of the interim administrator on decisions made, expenditures, and policies during the 6 months he held fort?
It is not true that followed the event that nothing was heard of the expenditure in Rivers State for 6 months. I remember following the budget presentation in the House of Representatives. I remember by virtue of Section 11.
I'm sorry to interject. I'm not actually talking about the budget. I'm just talking about decisions that were made in that time, and other paraphernalia that comes with the work that he has done in the last 6 months. A budget is something that we all know that happened because it went to the National Assembly.
Yeah, so decisions taken will certainly, not be outside the realm of the approval gotten from the National Assembly. If you look at the provisions of the Constitution, it wasn't for the administrator to work, in abeyance or to work or traverse the rules. It's for him to work, even though I completely, ab initio, had consistently heard that Section 305 does not empower the sacking of a democratically elected government, considering subsection 4 of Section 305. But if you put into cognizance the provisions of Section 11 of the Constitution, and also the fact that our Supreme Court had not given a clear-cut direction on the interpretation of that section, considering all of this, certainly every act or action of the administrator is guided by, processes and procedures and the budget presented. And so to that extent, you remember the controversy with the budget at the House of Representatives, the recurrent issue of, what do you call it now, the CCTV cameras in Rivers State, and all of that. So now that you have the complement of the House of Assembly coming into being by 12 midnight today, certainly the House of Assembly it will have the opportunity of looking into, because they are inheriting that budget that was presented, they are certainly going to have the opportunity of looking into the activities and affairs of that 6 months and what was done rightly and what was done wrongly. So apart from that, really, I do not think that anything should be, untoward. Considering the fact that the processes for a declaration of the state of emergency, and also the fact that every action carried out by the administrator, had been contained in the proclamation, the document, the gazette that proclaimed the state of emergency. So basically, what I see here, it's almost like an arrangement. You had to rein in the former governor, so that there'll be an arrangement, an in-house arrangement, and then now they all come out smiling and clapping, and then I doubt if anybody, even though I expected that they would look back, but I doubt if anybody really would want to look back.
Talking about arrangement, Prof, you expressed a bit of skepticism. I was waiting to come to you and ask the question as to the comments made by an APC chieftain and a stakeholder, Tonye Cole, about, Fubara just becoming a figurehead, as just follow the game until your time is over and go rest. What is your thinking as to what will be practicable in terms of decision-making in Rivers State for the next 2 years or so that Fubara will hold forth?
I think in the main, these are politicians, and they have come to some kind of compromise on how to run the state, and I have no problem with that. What I would like to see, and this is what I'm talking about, the details of the arrangement, is how does that affect Rivers State and the people of Rivers State? Well, how did the negotiations and the settlements that they obviously have come to affect Rivers State? If a man is the governor, how much right does he have? Micromanaging from behind doesn't work in any society and shouldn't be accepted. So what is that kind of arrangement? And I think everybody is interested to see. I don't want to give a negative connotation to Sim Fubara coming back to office. I think there are assumptions being made on both sides. One, everything will be fine. Two, oh, it's all bad. I don't want to get to that point.
All right.
I want to see before I believe. And I think that it's incumbent on, which is what I said before, it's incumbent on the governor, the president, the FCT minister, and everybody to be as transparent as they can to tell us what the terms of settlement.
All right.
I
will stay with you and just quickly ask questions on how he can perhaps, pending when we know what the arrangements are, begin to rebuild trust with the people. I mean Fubara now, especially with lawmakers who he had issues with before coming back. We saw him shaking hands with Amawuli earlier and others.
Sorry, that question for me?
No, I'm staying with the prof. Just quickly. Yeah.
Again, let's understand. They were all friends before all of this. They are probably all still friends, and so the personal details will be worked out. What we're talking about is the official details. How do they work together? Who has final say? The governor is an executive governor. The house is the house, and the type of relationship that they have has to be maintained according to the constitution. Now, if we find the governor not asserting himself or the house being overbearing, then clearly that's not in the interest of Rivers State. So
all right.
I think that it is imperative on both of them, and I hope that they have worked out, like I said before,
to build trust.
They worked out some detail as to how they relate to each other so that they don't clash all over
right.
again. As to just 1 minute, as to looking back on their sole administrators' stewardship, that's going to be difficult, and I hope that there was some mechanism put in place for somebody to look at what he did, because otherwise rumors will start spreading as to how he managed what and how he didn't manage what, and it's not uncommon for that.
Yeah, I still believe some measure of accountability is required for us to know how we can move forward. But Mr. Oshona, I'm going to merge two questions because we're time pressed and these questions need to be asked. The first is, does this end of the emergency rule nullify the cases before the courts on the matter, or it continues perhaps for academic purposes? And then the second is, we understand a lot of politics happened before and during the emergency law, and there are speculations that he has been broken and he still has until 2027. So what mechanism would you advise be put in place to ensure that the restored government can operate without interference, if that's possible?
Start with the last question. We need to ask ourselves first, how did Fubara become governor? Because we just assume that, Fubara on its own sat down somewhere and said, I want to become governor. And then, he went around campaign and he became governor. Fubara was somewhere and somebody said, come and become governor. Even a lot of people who are supporting him today probably didn't support him in the last election. And then he became governor. We saw the back and forth, Section 109, the campaign or no the campaign. So I think what has happened before the state of emergency declaration, there was a stalemate. And then the state of emergency declaration provided the opportunity, whether you call it reining him in or the godfather having an upper hand. I think at the end of the day, they are still going to, sit back and then work, do a bit of backward tracking, and then look at where mistakes were made. And like Prof has said, they are all friends. They were friends before now. Fubara and Wiki are two sides of the same coin, basically. So I do not really see any difference. So they will always sit back together and do what they need to do, because every governor, every president would want a second term. And so they will always reconcile. Then coming to the issue of the Section 309, 305, and the suit of the PDP governors that went to the Supreme Court. I think ordinarily some people would view that as an academic exercise, the action having been completed. But we say the law is what the court says it is. So for the purpose of interpreting Section 305 and what should happen, whether the president has the powers to so declare, also to to so vacate a democratically elected structure, that pronouncement is still very key. It will not become an academic exercise because it had happened. This is the third time it is happening and the democratic structures are being vacated. So if in interpreting the powers of the Supreme Court by virtue of Section 6 to interpret the law and to state the correct position of the law, so without, taking, going to the facts and the issues that have happened in Rivers State, just that sole issue for determination would go a long way in saving Nigeria's democracy, on whether a president has the power, even though he has the power to declare a state of emergency, whether in so doing he can sack a democratically elected structure, because there have been serious argument against it, including a former Attorney General, and the Vice President alluded to that when it happened under Jonathan's tenure.
All right, so many questions I'll ask with very limited time. Prof, as quickly as you can, how will the lessons learned from this period, for instance, what went wrong, what caused the crisis, how responses could have been better, be documented and translated perhaps into policy reform to strengthen democracy in Rivers State so we don't have a repeat of this scenario?
Several things. The first is godfatherism in politics. It's recognized everywhere, but remote control cannot be tolerated. Second thing is, as the learned lawyer just said, the Supreme Court has to come down with some kind of judgment. I understand. I just saw somewhere that the case has been listed for hearing on the 19th of September. So that's the beginning. The Supreme Court has to come in here and help us so that we understand what the rules are. And finally, and which is very, very important, that we need to see how the government evolves in Rivers State. There are no repercussions to people who supported Sim when he looked like he was trying to separate from his master, that the laws are kept and followed. The fate of Sim in 2027 is not my concern. He's a politician. They will work things out. That doesn't concern me. This next thing, of course, is to make sure, like you said, an audit of some kind of accountability be given for the 6 months where the sole administrator was in charge of Rivers State and its resources, so that there are no rumors. And he's a retired army officer. I hope that he's done enough to preserve his integrity.
All right, in 30 seconds, we're out of time, Mr. Boros. Talk to us about how legal is it for a governor to now operate a state budget signed during an emergency rule by the sole administrator? I need you to speak to that in 30 seconds, sir.
Section 11 of the Constitution empowers the National Assembly to make laws for any state where it is incapable for the State House of Assembly of that state to sit. So the National Assembly, the budget was passed by the National Assembly in compliance with Section 11 of the Constitution. And so what just happened is it's like, because of the vacuum created, the National Assembly made law, and so the governor will just inherit it. So it is a very legal process.
All right, gentlemen.
That Section 305, the court comes tomorrow to say you have no power to sack the democratically elected structures.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Good evening.
Coming up tonight, police in Niger State crack down on illegal mining. We have details of this and more when we come back. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. President Tinubu lifts state of emergency in Rivers State, directs suspended governor and lawmakers to resume on Thursday. Federal Inland Revenue Service counts losses as it mourns death of 4 senior staff who died in Tuesday Lagos Island inferno. And hundreds of protesters march against President Trump as he makes his historic second visit to the United Kingdom. The Federal Inland Revenue Service is mourning the loss of 4 staff who died in the fire that broke out on Tuesday at the Afriland Towers on Broad Street, Lagos. The fire engulfed the distant 7th floors of Afriland Towers, where FIRS officers for the medium tax audit and Oniko emerging tax departments are located. According to FIRS, security and safety personnel promptly alerted the fire service, but thick smoke had already spread through the building before the emergency responders arrived. FIRS has pledged full support to the families of the deceased and is reviewing safety protocols nationwide to prevent future incidents. Away from that, the Special Advisor to President Bola Tinubu on Policy Communication, Daniel Bwala, has dismissed recent remarks by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar on Nigeria's economic performance, insisting the administration is making measurable progress. Bwala described Atiku's concerns about poverty and hunger as politically motivated and inconsistent with current economic data. He argued that opposition leaders are attempting to distort public perception of the government's effort in order to score political points. Highlighting increased foreign reserves, improved net export and reduced import dependency, Bwala said these indicators reflect growing economic stability. Let's go to Niger State, where the police have arrested 6 illegal miners at a mining site in Paikoro local government area. According to the state police spokesman, Wasiu Abiodun, the suspects were found with mining equipment and dangerous weapons. The arrested men, all from Dangado village, include Aliyu Rabiu, Samaila Ibrahim, Sadiku Awal, Ibrahim Babangida, Musa Adamu, and Sani Hassan. During the raid on September 13, other suspects escaped. The police operation followed directives from Commissioner of Police Adamu Elema, aimed at combating illegal mining to protect lives and property and the environment. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has reaffirmed its commitment to promoting inclusive democracy with a focus on increasing women's participation in politics and leadership. INEC Chairman Professor Yakubu Mahmood made the remarks during an advocacy visit by the Women's Collective Forum at INEC headquarters in Abuja. He highlighted that women already hold more than half of the Commission's departmental leadership posts, reflecting INEC's role as an equal opportunities institution. The visit coincided with the International Day of Democracy, emphasizing the 2025 theme, Achieving Gender Equality from Voice to Action. 2025 has been a year marked by bold reforms and visionary leadership at the Maritime Academy of Nigeria, Man Oron. The institution's leadership sailed into uncharted territory, achieving a series of historic milestones that have redefined its position as the nation's citadel of maritime education. News Center's maritime correspondent, Norma Obiasoalu, was at the institution.
The 2025 third quarter citizens and stakeholders engagement at the Maritime Academy of Nigeria had finally held, with the theme, Implementation of the National Policy on Marine and Blue Economy for Onboard Training of Nigerian Merchant Navy Cadets and the Critical Needs of the Maritime Academy of Nigeria. The acting rector, Dr. Kevin Okonna, seized the avenue to reel out a list of his achievements in the space of 9 months in office.
The management sought for and obtained the Governing Council's approval for employment of scarce-skilled marine and other professional lecturers on contract with enhanced remuneration to close the existing faculty gaps and assure the quality of training in the institution. The Academy wrote to and collaborated with maritime professional associations and the alumni from January 2025 for employment of more maritime professionals to enable expansion in the Academy's course offering. Since January 2025, the Academy has employed and engaged a total of 7 marine professionals, including 2 master mariners with unlimited foreign-going certificates of competency, totally rehabilitated all the male and female cadets hostels, replaced all dilapidated furniture, and installed solar power as alternative source of power in all the cadets and short courses hostels in the Academy.
On his part, Chairman, Governing Council of the Academy, Kehinde Akinola, explained that in line with the Presidential Directive, the Academy hosted a third quarter citizens and stakeholders engagement, essentially to secure commitments from ship owners and associations for onboard training opportunities for its cadets.
The recent federal government policy in favor of providing sea time and onboard exposure for Nigerian cadets presents both an obligation and an opportunity. It's an obligation because we must prepare our cadets to meet international standards. It is an opportunity because through partnership with ship owners and operators, we can secure the practical training that turns theory to competent seafaring professionals.
As the institution continues to lead other maritime training institutions, train instructor under IMO Model Course 6.09, and collaborate with Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NIMASA for enhanced certificate recognition. Stakeholders look forward to the implementation of the resolutions reached at the just concluded engagement. In Oron, for News Central, Norma Obiaswalo.
Many thanks, Norma. Still ahead, the EU proposes tough trade cuts for Israel over Gaza conflict. More on this when we return. Thank you for staying with us. Outside Nigeria, as part of his historic second state visit to the United Kingdom, U.S. President Donald Trump and King Charles III on Tuesday watched a stunning fly-past by the Red Arrows over Windsor Castle. The ceremony marked one of many grand events during Trump's visit, including a carriage procession and a guard of honor. Trump and King Charles shared a coach during the procession, while Queen Camilla and First Lady Melania Trump followed behind in another. The Prince and Princesses of Wales also participated in the royal welcome. Earlier, Trump laid a wreath at the late Queen Elizabeth's tomb in St. George's Chapel. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters took to the streets of London and Windsor on Wednesday to voice their opposition to President Trump's historic second state visit to the United Kingdom. Demonstrators chanted "No to racism, no to Trump" near BBC Broadcasting House and marched towards Whitehall and Parliament Square. Protests also took place around Windsor Castle, where Trump is receiving a royal welcome. Human rights groups have condemned the visit over U.S. support for what they call the continuing genocide of the Palestinian people. To speak on this, we have Adeni Kunu, an international journalist. He joins me alongside global policy expert Alexander von Rugen. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. I'll start with you, Mr. Kunu. The protesters have tagged Trump a racist, and they seized his second state visit as an opportunity to strike. Would this deter President Trump's deportation policy, you think?
Well, let's understand that the people have the right to express their disaffection when something happens. That's what is typical in every free society. And I have to say that the British citizens have done what they have to do to let him understand they do not want him, they don't appreciate his policies. But let's remember here that the British people are forgetting that when you talk first about what is happening in Palestine, you're talking about what is going on with immigration. The United Kingdom is not different at this point in time from the United States of America. So while they are protesting against Donald Trump, they should also try to protest against Keir Starmer, because the immigration policies of the United Kingdom at the moment is equally against certain people, despite some of the things that have been found out not to be true. So let's understand that they are parallel on that side. If you also must understand, by virtue of retrospection, both countries have very strong international policies that they have operated upon. The Gulf War crisis, the rise of weapons of mass destruction that led the United Kingdom with the United States of America into Iraq years ago. This particular thing was also committed by both countries. So let's understand that beyond the protestations of people are deep-seated policy alignment between the United Kingdom and the United States of America. So it is important for the people to also realize that when you're talking about the Free Palestine issues, what is the position of those that have permanent seats in the United Nations? And you also must consider here that as France has recognized Palestine, for many countries that are protesting in the United Kingdom, what is holding the UK government back? If truly they're in support of Palestine, to recognize Palestine, for them to actually initiate many of these things to be able to actually allow such things happen. So let's understand, protestations on the street is one, understanding the policies that are in ink is another, and we stand to bridge the gap of ensuring that there's enough elucidation so that these countries can act right. Basically, that's my position right now.
All right, so Mr. Van Rugen, what parallels can be drawn between the protest against President Trump and other recent instances of mass mobilization or social unrest such as we have in Nepal and other regions?
It's no secret Trump is leading the world in deportations. One of his election campaigns was to combat illegal migration into America. That's catching a lot of traction in Europe and the UK, which have opened their doors to immigration, mass immigration, under the auspices of humanitarian support. And I think they did it a little quickly, and their citizens are now upset with the aftermath of what's happening. So they're kind of retracing their steps now and saying, we've got to control this, and we have to deport the illegal migrants that aren't not legally here, and we have to have a better vetting process. So right now in England, they're embracing Trump. He's getting a royal welcome like no other leader has ever received by the royal family. They're sheltering him from the demonstrations, which I'm told are around 5,000 to 10,000 people strong. The banquet is being held at Windsor Castle, which is outside of London and a lot more difficult to get to as far as the protesters are concerned. Now, in lieu of also what happened last week in London, let us not forget there was an anti-immigration rally led by Tommy Robinson, which was over 150,000 strong. Okay, the sentiment in England is enough is enough. Now, there's other reasons for Trump being in England. The protests are a combination of varying groups that oppose Trump. One on humanitarian, one is pro-Palestine, one is pro-abortion, and I'm sure racism is a small part of it, but let's not confuse racism with anti-immigration. It just happens to be that a lot of minorities are the asylum seekers trying to get into England. So it's easy to call it racism, where I think that's an improper classification.
All right, Mr. Kuno, considering the historical context of U.S.-UK relations, and even knowing that he was going to face some protests, what significance does Trump's second visit hold for both countries?
I think it's to refresh the relationship between the United Kingdom and, of course, the United States of America. For the purposes of history, that is commonplace to many persons. You're talking about the United States of America that came out of the United Kingdom over 200 years ago. That is a kind of relationship that you don't want to end anytime soon. So if you even look at the 5 countries that basically have, 5 to 6 countries that basically have English as their first language, you talk about the UK and the United States as parents of every other country, even if the US as a country has gone miles ahead in terms of many innovation and things that it has done. So time again, this visit will cement, as it were, the position of the US and the United Kingdom as top-notch allies within the English-speaking countries. And it also talking about policy going forward especially when they have to sit at the United Nations General Assembly, and there has to be the issue of speaking with one voice against perceived and real enemies, and of course in consolidation of policy alignment, and to ensure that international connections are better smoothed out. So these are actually the things that have happened. And don't forget also, since Donald Trump assumed office January, we have not had such visits to him, bearing in mind that King Charles III is ill, one way or the other. So this is both a state visit to ensure that such relationships are smoothened between countries, and to also show the kind of support needed. Apart from the remembrance of the Queen Mother, it is also important to say that, yes, we are with you in this period of challenge. And do not also forget, so these are the issues I need to point out. Yes, of course.
All right. To wrap things up, Mr. Von Rugen, is this protest likely to influence the UK government's diplomatic relations with the US in any way?
Whatsoever. I think I would refer to the anti-immigration protest of last week, which was in alignment with U.S. policy. This demonstration is much smaller. I think it shows England's right to be heard, which is good. It's a democratic country, and as far as affecting Trump, U.S. and English relationships, no. I think the true context of this trip is to discuss matters like the Ukraine and Russia, the UK's policy on joining the EU in protecting Ukraine. I think it's to also garner support on the Israeli-Gaza situation. And then also with trade. England, it's important to note, has the lowest tariff rates of any other country with the US. That was a deal that was cut with Trump. And England wants to invest into AI, also into America, which will be shared by the U.S. I think it's solidifying a relationship, and it's a global statement, as my friend also already indicated. It's a global statement of solidarity.
Alexander Von Rugen and Adeni Ikunu, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure as always.
The European Union has proposed suspending certain trade concessions with Israel in response to the ongoing war in Gaza. The European Commission, the EU's executive body, unveiled the delayed proposal aimed at pressuring Israel over its military actions. The sanctions proposal includes suspending parts of the EU-Israel Association Agreement and increasing tariffs on some Israeli goods. It also targets 10 Hamas leaders, Israeli settlers, and 2 far-right ministers in Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich. Business, sports, and entertainment next when we return.
Talking business now, the International Monetary Fund has identified significant opportunities for fintech firms to enable offline payment solutions across Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa to address infrastructure gaps like poor internet, unreliable electricity, and low digital literacy. IMF Africa Department Luca Ricci emphasized offline payments as a scalable business opportunity for private sector innovators to reach millions excluded from the digital economy. The IMF's report, Digital Payment Innovations in Sub-Saharan Africa, cautions against adopting cryptocurrencies as legal tender and calls for strong regulatory frameworks. It stresses that digital finance growth depends on sound macroeconomic policies and trust in local currencies. Away from that, the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency has called for an increase in its 11,000 naira per flight charge, unchanged since 2008, citing soaring infrastructure maintenance costs and inflation. Director General Farouk Umar highlighted investment in upgraded navigation and surveillance systems essential for safety. Airlines, however, resist the hike, citing already high operational expenses and fears of increased ticket prices. The House Committee on Aviation supports a collaboration to strengthen the sector, emphasizing transparency and efficiency. Aviation experts warn the stagnant fee undermines NAMA's sustainability and could jeopardize safety if costs aren't adequately recovered. Looking at the equities markets, the NGX All-Share Index rose 0.35% to close at 142,036 points, with market capitalization climbing to about 89.86 trillion naira, with a differential growth of 0.35%, reflecting sustained investor appetite for equities. And talking about sectoral performance, we start with the banking sector that dipped 0.16% due to persistent profit taking. Insurance also fell by 1.61%, extending weakness in the sector. Oil and gas rallied impressively with a 2.59% growth on strong demand in energy stocks as we tracked, while consumer goods gained 0.9%. Industrial goods posted a mild 0.06%, showing cautious interest in cement majors. However, the market closed positive, though weaknesses in financials tempered the broader advance. That's it on business. I am Lekon Obanjo. Stay tuned for sports.
And in sports, Ezekiel Nathaniel ended Nigeria's 38-year wait for a place in the final of the men's 400-meter hurdles event at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo after winning heat 2 at qualifying for the fastest time on Wednesday. The last Nigerian to appear in a final of the event was Henry Amike in 1987 in Italy, where he eventually finished 6th in 48.63 seconds. Nathaniel, who is Nigeria's current record holder in the event, finished in 47.47 seconds ahead of Qatar's Ismail Abakar, who set a personal best of 47.61 seconds, and USA's Caleb Dean in 47.85 seconds. The Nigerian sensation will run in lane 6 in the final, which will take place on Friday. Still on the World Athletics Championships, Nigeria's fastest man this year, over 200-meter, Udodi Onwuzurike, has qualified for the semi-finals of the event. Onwuzurike kept his first-place finish over USA's Kenneth Bednarek, who was in sight, as he powered forward from the bend to finish second with a time of 20.27 seconds. South Africa's Sinisepo Dambile placed third in a photo finish, with Onwuzurike also in 20.27 seconds. Onwuzurike is set for the semi-final on Thursday, where he will face tough competition from the likes of USA's Noah Lyles, South Africa's Dambile, and Britain's Zanelle Hughes. In the women's category, Kenya's Faith Cherotich overhauled defending champion Winifred Yavi on an incident-packed last lap to win the women's 3,000 meters steeplechase gold. Still only 21, Cherotich added her first world title to the world bronze she won as a teenager in Budapest 2 years ago, and the Olympic bronze she won in Paris last year. Cherotich nailed a hurdle that Baran's Yavi stumbled over on the final run down the back straight and soared over the last water jump before her kick took her to the tape. She crossed the finish line in 8 minutes 51.59 seconds, the fastest time ever at the Worlds, after a race run at a good pace despite the suffocating humidity at the National Stadium. Now, after a football journey spanning over 2 decades, former Super Falcons captain and centre-back Onoma Ebi has announced her retirement from professional football. The 42-year-old began her career with Omidiro Babes in 2001 before joining Bayelsa Queens. She moved to Sweden in 2009 to play for Peter IF to kickstart her European career. She made further moves to 7 other clubs in 5 countries, including Turkey, China, and Belarus, before moving back to Nigeria to join NWFL side Niger Rattlers of Abuja for the 2023-2024 season. Ebi made her debut for the Super Falcons in 2003 and went on to become the nation's most capped player with 109 appearances. She played a pivotal role in 4 Women's Africa Cup of Nations wins in 2010, 2014, 2016, and 2018, and played at an astonishing 6 FIFA Women's World Cup. And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoku.
Getting big numbers. Dewo, all the details.
You know how it is. I'll definitely bring you all the details. We're super excited, by the way. Afrobeats to the world.
I can imagine.
All right, now let's jump right into it as Thames just hit a major new carrier high, racking up 20.32 million monthly streamers and listeners on Spotify, her biggest number yet, if I should say so myself. Now, this makes her the second most streamed Nigerian artist on the platform, solidifying her status as one of the country's biggest global stars. You know, from breakout hits like Try Me to game-changing features like Wizkid's Essence and features Wait For You with Drake, Thames has built a catalog that keeps breaking boundaries, blending Afrobeats, rhythm, and Alte. The Grammy winner is pushing Nigerian music even further onto the world stage, and it looks like she's just getting started. Felicity, what do you have to say to this? Yes, you have to. We give it to her now. We give it to her now. It's too much. She's making Nigeria proud.
She's doing well for herself and for the country and Africa generally.
Yes. Yeah. So we can say, well done, Thames. All right, now let's move on towards something very interesting, as Jaden Smith has landed a major fashion role as the first ever men's creative director of Christian Louboutin. Now, the luxury brand created the position just for him, and he'll be moving to Paris to take it on. Quite a huge move, I should say. Jaden will lead 4 collections of the year across shoes, leather goods, and accessories, while also shaping campaigns and events. His first capsule drops in January 2026, calling it one of his biggest honors of his life. Jaden admits he feels the pressure, but is excited to deliver. Already no stranger to fashion, he's modeled for Louis Vuitton, worked with G-Star, and built his own brand, Misfits Rep. Now, Felicity, this story caught me because I was thinking, we have a lot of great, I'm bringing it home now, we have a lot of great designers here in Nigeria, and we don't see so much of collaborations with our celebrities, with these great designers. What do you think is the difference?
Yeah, I think first you have to have the interest. He's always been interested in fashion and everything creativity. So one is not surprised with this milestone that he's getting now. So kudos to him. And we look forward to what he brings us in 2026.
We're hoping to see his creativity play out. So that's all we have on entertainment tonight, by the way.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. President Tinubu has lifted the state of emergency in Rivers State and has directed the suspended governor and lawmakers to resume on Thursday. We also brought you the sad news that the Federal Inland Revenue Service is counting losses as they mourn the death of 4 senior staff who died in Tuesday Lagos Island inferno. Off our shores, hundreds of protesters march against President Trump as he makes his historic second visit to the United Kingdom. As always, we would love your feedback and your eyewitness reports. Please send them to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all social media platforms as well. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422. On GoTV, we are on 23. Star Times, we are on channel 274. You can find us as well on Avo TV and YouTube. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.